This is a coding bat exercise, sum 13, where we're supposed to sum the numbers in an array. I'm going to do this in a TDD way just to step you through the process of how I solve this. So I do TDD, so I really want to understand what the tests are that are being run against this solution. So I'm just going to return 0 for now and then click go. I see that just by returning 0, I actually have some tests pass. Now whether these passing tests are legitimate or not, legitimately passing or not, that remains to be seen. So we need to look at these things. So here I see that the input is an empty array, which would be legitimate for this solution here, just returning 0, because you don't even have to iterate over the array to get that number. So you can pass in empty arrays all day and really you don't have to iterate over it and just return 0. So this is a legitimate pass, I think. However, this one seems illegitimate. Maybe. Maybe not. If you think about it, you're an array with only 13, you'd skip that anyway, but the solution doesn't actually intentionally skip it. So I think this is still considered illegitimate pass. We'll see. We'll try. This one also, there's only 0. But at any rate, we have some passing tests. We have an idea of what the test input is. So we've faked it for now. Let's try to introduce a variable actually to make it more like an actual program. In sum, and this is what we're trying to get, the sum, and we just return the sum. So pretty much the same thing, only now we've used the variable. So we run it and see that we still get the same passing tests. All right. So the next thing would be, we said that we're not actually iterating, so let's iterate over this and try to get the sum. So for int I equals num, sum equals I. Let's see what happens now. Think now we're iterating over this and we're actually calculating a sum and then returning it. So, in sum I return nums. All right. Now we have looks like we have a different set of tests that pass. So we know that this one was legitimate because it's still passing. It's still legitimately passing. We never got into here because there's no numbers to iterate over. So we're just returning the sum that we initialized. This one is also a legitimate one because we are iterating over this array and getting the sum, which is 6. And same thing for here. Same thing for this guy. And same thing for this guy. We're actually iterating. So these are all legitimately passing tests now. So if that was all we ever got, this solution would be good enough for those inputs. But we have other types of inputs. Let's see. Let's look at this next one. This one has a 13 in it. So we really should be ignoring this. But because we didn't ignore it, we got 19. So 6 plus 13 is 19. That's the reason why we got the result we got, because we did not ignore this 13 here. So let's ignore that. If I is not 13, then we go ahead and calculate the sum. Otherwise, we don't do that addition. All right, we expect this test case to pass now. And it did. So we understand why that passes, because we added this logic. If we didn't have that logic, this would still fail. Now it looks like we might have added a few more tests that passed. This one passed now. because we've ignored it. Okay, so that's good. This is a legitimate pass. This one passed also, so that's legitimate because we've ignored all the 13s. This one also passed because we've ignored all the 13s. This one didn't pass because even though we ignored the 13s, we still counted this guy, which means that the condition of don't count anything that comes after a 13 is not handled. So let's add that condition. Let's see if these are. So if that's the same case here, okay, we have this one which we counted. That comes after a 13. We shouldn't have counted that. That's why we got 6 instead of 4. And then over here we counted this one, which is 1, and this one, which is, that makes that 3. 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. So that's the discrepancy. That's why this still failed, because we counted these two numbers when we shouldn't have, because they come after 13. So let's add that condition in. And we're going to need a last variable. Last is not 13. The last number that we looked at is not 13. We need to declare that 13, and then we need to keep track of it. 13. All right, so now we're tracking 13 as being the last number. We're not going to sum it up if the last number was also 13. So we go ahead and click that. Oops. We're failing now. Here's the bug. Should initialize that to 0. All right, now it's all correct. Now we've accounted for all the cases, and that's the solution. That's the working solution. Now to one last refactoring. This last variable actually could be interpreted as being this last number, last in the whole set. I don't want that. I didn't mean the last in the whole set. I mean the last one that we looked at. So let's just change that to something that's more expressive, and no, let's say just the previous one. Previous and previous. And since this was just a rename, we expect all the tests to still pass. So there you go. And that's it. That's the solution.